Okay, hi everyone. This is Molly Z here with Successful Women in Business, and I'm super excited today because we have an amazing guest for you, an amazing interview for all of you to learn from. We have a man who is a visionary with a devotion to creating greatness in people's lives all over the world. This man is a very special friend of mine. He's one of the most diplomatic people I know, and he is super non-confrontational, also a very charming and intelligent man, and the husband of a beautiful woman named Christy B. I've never met anyone who doesn't like this man, so I would, have the pleasure of introducing to you my friend, Scotty P. Mercker.
Hey!
Say hi to everyone, Scotty P.
Hey, everyone. It's great being with you guys. And Molly, thank you for an amazing, amazing introduction. Wow, thank you.
It didn't take long to write that because I adore you, Scotty B. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a few questions for you, though. We're super happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So for people that may be listening to this here today or down the road, tell us just a little bit about who you are for people that may not know you, Scotty B. A little background, and tell us about this nickname, the Surgeon, that you have.
Well, just a little bit about me briefly. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. That's where I am right now. This is my home. My family's here. I was born and raised here and lived here for all of my life, at least part-time, so that's a good thing. Growing up, I was the guy that always made sure people had fun. I was always throwing parties. I was the biggest partier in my high school, probably close to the biggest partier in my college. I actually had a business throwing parties while I was in college because I love to bring people together and to see people having a great, great time. And it was always an opportunity to meet new people as well. And I just love people, so it was just perfect for me. So I was always that guy that was getting people together, whether it was a small little group of people or my biggest party. I had over 8,000 people that were there, so it was a really, really big party. So that's kind of my background. And then, believe it or not, my brother gave me an audio cassette of this guy named Tim Foley. And on the audio it said, "Where will you be in 5 years?" So I plugged that audio in, I listened to it, and it introduced me to the concept of multi-level marketing. The thing that got my attention, though, is it said, during there he was talking about where you are in life today, and he said, in the next 5 years, if you save as much as you have in the last 5, if you advance as much as you have in the last 5, where will you be? Where will you be? And that second time he said that is what got my attention, because if I saved as much as I did in the last 5 years, I'd be in really bad shape because I'd saved nothing. I was in debt. If I advanced as much, I just would have had twice as many parties, so that was no big deal. And that concept, though, of finding people to use a product or service that they could share with their family and friends, and then teaching them how to duplicate that process, and if you could work with them and build a team, you could get paid off of a big team's efforts. I mean, I was not taught that in school. I'd never heard that concept. So keeping a long story short, I talked to my dad. My dad's an attorney, and you never turn down free legal advice. He said, "Scott, I know your brother's excited about it." He said, "That company has really seen its better days here in our country based on where I know you want to go." He said, "So my advice for you would probably be not to do it, and I know your brother will hate me to hear that, but you probably shouldn't do it." So, talk about being super excited but being deflated. I'm like, "Thanks, Dad. I thought I found something amazing." And the craziest thing happened literally 2 weeks later. I get a cold call at my work. I'm working my regular job, and I get a cold call, and I recognize this guy's name because he was a top CPA in our hometown. And he called me. He said, "Scott, this is Grant Furness." He said, "I was given your name by Chuck Eisenman." Well, that was a friend of my mom and dad's that was a stockbroker. And so Grant was with a new 2-year-old network marketing company, and he was looking for people. It was a wellness-related company called Relive. And so this stockbroker said no to him, but Grant was so smart, he asked for referrals, and this guy gave Grant my name, so he cold called me. So I didn't know it was a multi-level marketing company. I just thought it was a nutritional company, and I literally met with him in the next few hours. I was so excited about the chance to find something. And when I met with him, he showed me the exact same thing like Amway, but it was a brand new company. I said, this is what my dad was talking about. You know, not having half the world already know about what you're doing. He was talking about timing. And so, of course, I played it kind of cool. I was in my mid-20s at the time. I said, well, Grant, let me think about this. I'll get back to you later. Go back to my office. I'm so excited, Molly. I didn't even know there was another company like Amway, and to find one that was something I could really relate to, wellness and helping people to live a better quality life, I called him back 2 hours later. I said, I'm in. So that's how I got started in this industry of network marketing. That was 25 years ago, and you know, it's been a blessing. It's been an absolute blessing. I've met some of the most amazing people. I think I've been now in 41 different countries building this business. I've been so fortunate to meet a lot of great mentors, a lot of great leaders, work directly with people like Robert Hollis, one of the best of the best, and to be able to be in a position where you can share time with great people and then take that and be able to help other people. You know, I just can't think of anything for the last 25 years I would have rather done. There might have been things I made more money in, maybe not, but I wouldn't trade it for any amount of money in the world, Molly.
That's awesome, Scotty B. And I love hearing that because, you know, it leads me right into my next question for you perfectly. I mean, your story is amazing, and I have to put my granny glasses on real quick here. So, you know, we talk about core values, and you have, I mean, your core values are just unbelievable. You know, I know that you have peace, love, unity, respect. I mean, how did you come up with this stuff, Scotty B?
You know, I cannot tell a lie. That really was back during my party days. There was kind of this group that was really into these big parties. They were kind of called raves at the time, and they had this little acronym they called PLUR, P-L-U-R. It was peace, love, unity, and respect. And when I heard that, I thought, you know, it just resonated with me. It resonated with me so strongly that I was like, wow, you know, that's kind of who I am inside. And I never really sat down to think about from a value standpoint what the most important values were for me. But when I heard that, for me personally, it was just kind of all encapsulating of who I felt I was and who I really wanted to be to the outside world. So that's really where I adopted that from, and that was 20-some-odd years ago.
Well, I love that. I mean, it's just beautiful, the peace and love, you know?
Oh, yes.
One of the favorite things that you do that I've really learned from is your yearly New Year's wheel of, what is it? The wheel of life. And I think probably the top thing that comes to mind when I think, you know, what I've learned from Scotty B is how to create balance, or how to work on creating balance in your life. So can you tell us a little bit, can you tell the viewers a little about this wheel of life exercise that you do? And I have posted it around to be available for successful women in business, so maybe you can encourage them how amazing and helpful this can be to help you create balance.
Yeah, I sure can, Molly. And you know, it's interesting because it'll be 20 years ago this coming October. It was 1995 in Honolulu, Hawaii, Waikiki Beach, on the deck of the Marriott Hotel, looking out over the beach. And myself and my leaders, we came together to create a vision statement for our team. And that's where we in essence, created the Creating Greatness team, and we created our vision statement. And one of the main values in that vision statement was personal balance. Well, the interesting thing is, about a year before that, I was introduced to a guy named Tom McCarthy. I call him Coach T. He was running the Robbins Research Institute for Tony Robbins, and he was Tony's #1 trainer at the time. And just had a friend that introduced me, and like it happens so many times in life, we just really clicked. And so he became my personal coach, and then he became the coach for our entire team. Got a chance to meet Tony Robbins personally and to attend every single event that he's ever had. And one of the things, Molly, that Tony taught, he's had something called the circle of life, and he was talking about how to balance your life. And when I saw that, once again, it was something that resonated for me, because I'd kind of struggled with how to balance this, you know, this drive and desire to go and build your business and create momentum in your team. And, you know, when people call, it's like, you know, the money I'm making is because of the efforts of the team. Now, I know I've started that, but I always felt that responsibility to take the call and do the three-way calls because it's somebody new like I was when I first started, and that might just be the call that helps them get over the hump. So I struggled with that. I mean, heck, when Christy and I first started dating, I mean, I never didn't answer a call. She's like, do you never not answer the phone? I said, no. You know, she said, well, we're having dinner, you know, or I'm in a movie and I'm, you know, like this, and I walk out of the movie and take the call, and, you know, but when you're in the game like that and you don't know any better, you don't know. So you know, we had to get a little balance, and I went back to that wheel that Tony had shown about how to create balance, and then I started sharing that with my team, but then I added some other things and other elements around that to really focus on the core areas of your life in a big, big way, and attaching that into what we do within our industry. And a lot of people just said, hey, do you mind if I invite some friends? They're not in our company, maybe they're in other companies, maybe not even in multi-level marketing. And I said, yeah, so I would do that every year to start for our team, and I guess now it's been about 20 years that I've been doing that, and it just meant something for me because it helped me really in a very simplified way, which a guy from Kentucky needs something simple. So in a very simple way, I could look at like these core areas that were the most important, and then I could very easily gauge where I was, and then I could take a look at where I wanted to go, the old roadmap. And many times in goal setting sessions before, they'd have you set so many goals, and for me, I couldn't focus on that much stuff. So one of the things I learned is if I could just pick the absolute most important thing, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in that core category, if I focused on that, most of those other goals somehow were attached to it, and I would usually achieve some of them, and the ones I didn't achieve, they probably weren't that important anyways if I focused on the single most important thing. And by doing that, Molly, it helped me to have more balance, and I actually became more effective in building my team where I wasn't so frantic and so on it all the time. I kind of leveled out a little bit. So that's really how that came to be.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you were able to share that with us because, like I said, it was very helpful to me, and I think it could be very helpful to people that are listening with us today. So my next question is, you know, you talked a little bit before, you know, about your dad, and you talked about, you know, learning about the ability to be able to create a residual income, and how you learned about leveraging people and compounding and all that. And so, you know, once you learned that, and you got this ability to be able to bring people together in the beginning, how did that make you feel, and how did that change the direction of your life?
That's a great question. It really is. And you know, I think it's something my partner Matty T says all the time. He says, you know, as good as you think it is, it's 1,000 times better. And when I got into network marketing, there's no question I wanted to make a lot of money because I want to see the world. I want to experience the world. I want to live a life that is full of the things that I want to do inside that life. And so I saw this as a vehicle to make a whole lot of money. I'm a drummer, and unless you're Phil Collins and you can sing and play drums, you don't make a lot of money. I'm a swimmer, and when I swam, nobody made the money Michael Phelps makes. I didn't get the best grades in school, so I'm probably not going to be a CEO of a major corporation. Thank God, because I wouldn't want to be that. So for me, multi-level marketing was the answer. It was truly the answer. And in the front end, when I first got in, I mean, I really saw it as a way to make a whole lot of money and do the things I wanted to do. I've been very fortunate to make a lot of money and to do a lot of the things I want to do. But what I didn't anticipate, Molly, is when you have a young guy like Alan Aquina, who is a senior in college, he's going to BYU Hawaii, and he joins your team down below you, and he reaches up to have some upline support, somebody who maybe can help him. And you take the time and the effort to really work with him and mentor him, doing the three-way calls at 2 in the morning on the East Coast when it's evening time, his time, and flying over there and helping him build his team. And you know, when you see him in his 10th month make an $8,000 check, and then in his 3rd year make $400,000, and today he owns an Inc. 500 company. He owns property on 4 of the 6 or 7 Hawaiian Islands. His wife runs a cheerleading and dance camp for high school kids. You know, he's got five or six kids now, and I mean, he's just living a life, just building a brand new home over on the North Shore of Oahu right now, and he's living a life that most likely he never would have if it wasn't for this business. And he probably would have quit if there wasn't that extra coaching and mentoring and just friendship to kind of help him through the difficult times. And for sake of time, anybody, whether it's Robert or any other great leader, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of these type of stories. A person who calls you and says, my child needed braces and we just couldn't afford to do that, but this extra $500 a month, we're able to get a payment plan and we're able to get braces for our child. We could talk for days on end and story after story. I bet, Robert, I see him shake his head, he knows, and many of you who've been building this business, you guys know, it's not how much money people can make, but it's the fact that you actually help people. You take the time, you give of yourself to help them, and then when they achieve it, it's the things that it helps them to do that when you come into this business, you have no way what's going to happen right here to this heart. Because when you get these type of calls, or somebody's getting ready to lose a home, or somebody's parent is really ill and they were able to help with some of the medical bills, I mean, wow, when people say what drives you, the people outside of our industry think, oh, they just want to go make more money. They just want to go to those beaches and put those cars up, and they have no idea. And you know what? You never try to explain it, because until you experience it, you won't have any idea. So there's no question, Molly, that from a feeling standpoint, when you get a call from somebody, no matter how small or how big it is, that they're sharing of what it's doing for them, I mean, it's like, wow, validation that we're in the right business, no question about it.
I love a lot of the points you made, especially, the point that you made about not having to have like a God-given Olympic-style talent or, be gifted brain-wise to be able to be like, some top surgeon. You don't have to be anything. All you have to be is a person that wants to be better and wants to, build the belief and build the skills that you need to, take a position, basically in any company. If you have the skills, you can take it to wherever you want to go. You don't have to be gifted with all these things. Like a lot of us, yeah, a lot of us are good at sports, but we're not going to be the next, I was just going to say Billie Jean King, but that makes me sound so old. Anyway, that was the first name that came to mind.
Maria Sharapova.
It's the Australian Open right now, so who's winning the Australian Open? Let's go with that.
I think Maria Sharapova's doing good.
I have Robert Hollis sitting here, and, my next question is kind of pertains to both of you, because, you, Scotty B, have created the ability to, by working on yourself, self-development and mentorship through others, you've been able to build, and I have to look at my stats here, teams of over 300,000 affiliates in 141 countries in under 4 years, is I think the top one that I know about you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong if you've done more than that, but can you tell our listeners, just a couple things that pushed you to be able to get you to that gigantic of an accomplishment? And then Robert, if you want to feel free to chime in on this one, because you're right there.
Well, I can say this immediately about Scotty B. Mercker is Scotty B. Mercker is not only an incredible human being, I call him a human doing. See, there's people out there that understand how to be a being, but Scotty B. Mercker is not only an incredible human being, but he's a human doing. He actually, when he gets his thoughts about what he wants to create, each and every day he gets up and pushes toward his mark. He pushes toward what he wants to create. And so the term creating greatness, it's not a mantra or a little saying for Scotty B. He actually lives it. And so I can tell you what I know from being good friends with Scotty B and learning lots of stuff from him, is blessed to have him as a friend, and also I would call him a I don't know, peers sometimes have the ability of learning directly from each other. You know what I mean? And so it's funny when you become humble, we sort of come to a point where we realize that we really didn't make up anything. We just hang around a bunch of great people, and I think I heard a phrase one time, is that when you steal someone's stuff as plagiarism, but when you use everyone's stuff that you're close to and mentors, it's called research. And so I have definitely done some great research with Scotty B. Mercker and used some of his great stuff because he knows that he's learned it from others. The other thing I love to say about Scotty B that's so remarkable is Scotty B talked about the emotions of helping people, and Scotty B. Mercker and the other people that I know that are extremely successful are addicted to that feeling. There's people all over the world that wish that they could find their purpose, find their passion, find their love. Because even though you make money, there's still a lot of people that are not fulfilled. They're not fulfilled. They still have an empty hole in them, and that's where the phrase comes, money doesn't buy happiness. But Scotty B knows as well as I do that when you help that individual and you realize that you worked hard enough on yourself and personal development, and you force yourself every day to learn from other people that have already done it, and you listen to the audios and the videos over and over and over again that you don't stop, and then all of a sudden you're talking to somebody and you realize the words that come out that inspires them, that gets them to do something that changes their life and their family tree, are words that you learn from other people. But you used it. So, it's like a sword in the hand of an incredible warrior. You know what I mean? An incredible trained warrior, that sword can, defend a king, defend an emperor, defend a peacemaker. That guard with that sword learned the skills to be able to take care of virtually any person that tried to hurt that person. And so all of a sudden you train a little new person to do that doesn't have that knowledge, and then you get to see them put those skills together, and that's the most joyous thing in the world. So me hanging around with Scotty B on a personal level, he is flat addicted to that feeling, and that's why when his phone rings or his email goes off or his Voxer goes off, he doesn't do what normal people and average people do. He doesn't go, oh, God, another person bothering me. No, he's got the mindset of, oh, my God, another person I can help, another person I can inspire, another person I get to help get closer to their goals. So that's why I love this man so much. So I'll let him answer to it, but that is what I know about the guy.
Well, Robert, thank you. And we did have an amazing opportunity to work together for almost 5 years, which was life-changing for me. And there's no question it's reciprocated, because I couldn't even begin to share all the things that I've learned from you, both watching you on stage, talking to you in person, some of the personal calls that we've had when I called you for some upline counseling and just some questions that I had. I mean, every single time, taking those calls and scheduling the calls and spending the time, and it's just invaluable what I've learned from you on that. And we share that same type of passion for helping people, and I think you're right. Anybody who aspires to be the highest level in this business, if they don't have that, they better learn to develop it pretty quick, because I can't imagine ever building a substantial organization, if that's your goal, if you really don't like people and you really can't get juiced by seeing other people have success. So that would be a pretty tough one. But Molly, real quick to answer specifically to your question, is it really boils back down to the principles of success of duplication, consistent effort, and time. And that's finding a system, and that's assuming the company you're in is a good company with good management, good products, and they have the ability to kind of navigate the ship through the waters that are filled with sharks and be able to make it through the other side, which is not an easy thing. But assuming you do have a good company with good people and good products, and for me, it's always been steeped in finding that plan that we can duplicate and finding something that can be simplified and really boiled down to a few highly duplicatable steps that cross all cultural barriers, because we do like to build international. It's kind of a focus of what we like. And so we look for things that kind of work on a global scale that could be duplicated. And then just doing them. Congruency of leadership, I think, is one of the biggest values for a leader. So many times you'll see a leader and they say one thing from stage, but they don't do it in their day-to-day practices. And that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing to get past, and it's a tough thing to really grow. There's some that are talented enough they can get past that, or they get some people under them. I know a person, and is a real big leader in this company. Matter of fact, he's building another company right now that is exploding. And I used to hear him all the time talking about how he's building his business, but I knew there were other things that were going on that were not exactly what he was saying, but he was recruiting in this format. And I kept thinking, wow, you know, that's out of integrity. That's not congruent. But he was so good that he could attract a few key people that his team exploded. So unfortunately, that happens some in the industry. It's real life, just like anything else. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, it's really just finding those simple, duplicatable steps. And then, like Robert said, every day just waking up and, you know, knowing what it is that you want to accomplish, knowing why you want to accomplish it, what you're looking to accomplish, and what that's doing to juice you personally. Because, you know, you've heard Matty T say many times, hey, if your cup's not full, you can't fill somebody else's cup. So, you know, it's not being greedy, it's just being real. You've got to be getting something too, or else you don't have anything to give. So once you do that, then it takes some time. You know, everybody thinks magically, boom, those big numbers hit. And you hear the stories of a leader that transfers over from a company. They've got a big team, and they start, and so instantly, you know, bam, they get this big income. But that's not the first person to get it started. That's not when Robert started many, many years ago, or when that's not the case. We had to start with the very first call, the very first appointment, the very first rejection, the very first sign up. You know, we all have to start at that place, someplace. So for me, it's that. But I say there's one other point that's really helped, Molly, for what I do and what our teams do. And we kind of marry the best of old school and new school, and we utilize technology, not bleeding edge technology, but we try to adopt leading edge technology and then adapt it into our plans. And one of the biggest ones is communication, especially for global build. And right now we use Voxer. That's kind of our primary communication tool because it reaches with a Wi-Fi connection anywhere in the world. People can hear you, they can feel you can share photos, different things. I know one other time before, when everybody just had a phone, it was before email, we used this system called Virtual Voice. It was an interactive voicemail system that you called in through an 800 number. I had 14,000 of my leaders on that one system. So literally I could send one message first of the week. Here's all the meetings for the week. And those 14,000 people would get it. Then they would give it out to their teams. So I would show up at a city, or one of my leaders would show up at a city, and there'd be people invited from all over the country, because it was only a USA business at the time. But that's what we call cross-pollination. And so we came from a place of abundance, and everybody works to help everybody, knowing that you strengthen the company and you help other people. Obviously, it comes back to you based on the belief and philosophies we use. So because of the technology we use, just like what you're doing right here with the Google Hangout, and I know Robert's one of the best at bringing new technologies that are proven into helping people build a global build. So we do that same type of thing as well, and with those principles and focusing on that duplicatable plan, then it's just getting to work, and it's doing what you have to do every day and leading your team as any leader should.
So I'm going to point out to everyone, please write this down because I'm taking notes. Consistent effort over time. Right, Scotty B?
That is right.
Yeah, and I appreciate you touching on the technology too, because you know, I thought I was pretty good at the technology thing until I started working with Robert Hollis, and then I found out I had a lot to learn. So
he's the master.
in the process here. But you know, speaking about being passionate about helping people, you're working on an amazing project called Help for Tomorrow, and I know a little bit about it, and it's very dear to my heart. I hope to, you know, continue to be a part of that with you because I think it's beautiful. But why don't you tell everyone else a little bit more about what Help for Tomorrow is?
You know, Help for Tomorrow was something that I kind of came up with a long time ago, because when I put together my core areas, one of those is contribution. And I do believe that leaders in this industry are contributing quite a bit, both of their time and of their money when they're helping to build a team. Because let's face it, it takes a lot of money to travel and to do the things we do to go build if that's what somebody chooses to do. So time is very, very valuable. We're spending a lot of our time. And so, you know, that is contribution. But I wanted to do something outside of the multi-level marketing industry. And, you know, a lot of people have contribution. We give to our church. We give to some charities, things like this. But I wanted something totally different. And I started thinking, you know, there are just many, many people around the world that can't even participate in multi-level marketing. They have really not many options at all for ways they can increase their financial position in life. And also there's many, many people around the world that Heck, if you walk into a restaurant, if you see what somebody throws away off of their plate, well, there's some people that don't even get that much nutrition in an entire week, some other places around the world. So, you know, I just wanted to put together something to focus in those two areas, and it's a long-term project for me. It's definitely outside of what I primary focus on, but it's a plan that we're putting in place to address those two primary needs. Number one, financial, and number two, to help people to be able to have access to things that can create more wellness in their lives, give them a better chance to grow, especially children in those formative years where they can actually grow. So working on some projects to make that happen, and you know, that's a long-term project, but it's something near and dear to the heart, and ideally it's going to be a very, very big global project over time.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I remember you talking about it. I actually remember when I first heard about Help for Tomorrow was, I want to say, it was on a 4th of July picnic when I stepped out and came on a Creating Greatness call, and I heard you mention it, and ever since then I've been kind of following what you're doing because I think it's just amazing, which brings me to, you know, you being such a visionary and, you know, being able to create these visions for yourself. What would you say is some of the steps that you could share with others who don't know what their vision is or trying to create a vision of their own without necessarily copying someone else's, you know? Not that that's ever a bad idea if you can find the right person to copy, but how could you help people begin to create such a vision?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Molly, because I've talked to many different people about this over time, that they said, you know, I just don't really have a vision for where my life is headed. Or they may say, you know, I don't feel like I have a purpose. You know, I don't feel like I have a calling. And I think the first thing is to be able to give yourself permission to say, you know, it's okay if you don't feel that right now. I think many times people make themselves feel like it's wrong because they don't have that. You know, people say, what's your why? Or, man, you got to get the why that makes you cry. And they're saying, there's nothing that makes me cry, you know, so is something wrong with me? And I think it's okay, first, if you don't have this total grasp of your vision. And what I've found is many times people are trying so hard to find that vision or that purpose that they don't realize that maybe they're just not in tune with it right now. And then they end up feeling bad about it, and they feel like they're lesser than other people. So normally I don't hear that addressed very much. People just say, well, you got to find your vision. You know, there's got to be something. What is it? What is it? What is it? Or they'll take them through exercises to help find that. And sometimes you're just not in a place where you're in touch with that. You're just in a different place in life, and that's okay. So I think the first thing, and probably most important, because not everybody is totally in tune with their purpose or their vision or their why, is if you're not right now, that's okay. Sometimes it's good to take a step back before you take a couple steps forward. But sometimes you get these leaders that they're in these training sessions saying, man, you got to get your why, you got to get your why. Stand up, tell us your why. And then they're paralyzed. Oh, I don't have a good why. You know, or it's like, oh my God, his or her why was so amazing. You know, my why is nothing like his or hers. I must be a loser, you know. So I think
they're worrying why they're not crying.
That's right. That's right. So that's the first thing, is kind of getting them away from that. And then the second thing is, it's really a personal thing. And you know, what might be the why for me could be totally something different for somebody else. And especially in the United States today, it's almost become a little politically incorrect to say, well, you know, I want to travel to all these different places, or I'd like to have these big homes, or I'd like to have my own airplane, my own yacht. They're talking about, you know, this top 1%, you know, and the 99% and all these things, and they almost demonize or victimize the top 1%. And I'm not going to go down that path too much, but for me, I believe that if somebody says, you know what, my why is not to create a charity, or my why is not to give tons of money to a church or something like that, that's okay. It's okay to want things for yourself, especially when you're going to work in an environment where the only way you're going to get that is by helping a lot of other people to get some of the things or all the things that they want. So I think the biggest thing is people just have to feel it. I don't know if there's really a magic bullet. A lot of people like to do visioning exercises. Some people like to do meditation. Some people like to look on the internet or just go to an automobile dealership and sit in that car. I mean, Could you imagine just driving up to a Rolls Royce dealership and in Las Vegas and sitting in it? But then imagine the day in the future when you actually drive it off the lot.
and then take it one step further and let one of your best friends drive it, and you sit in the back.
From Vegas to California.
Yeah, Scotty's a great chauffeur. I mean, tell you, he's awesome.
and honored to be one as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Molly, I think just in wrapping that up, I mean, there's all sorts of exercises, and it's kind of like not one size fits all. I think people kind of have to feel what it is that's going to lead them, and so many times they try to do an exercise that people say, this is what's going to help you find your purpose. It's the wrong thing for them. And then they feel like they can't find it. They feel like they're losing. They feel like something's wrong with themselves. If they'll just take a step back, whether they want to meditate, whether they want to do some breathing exercises, but if they just let it come to them, and they also make it okay. It's a safe haven to be in a place where you're not totally connected to your why, your purpose, your vision, whatever you want to call it. I think if they can do that, more often than not, they're probably going to find that that's going to come to them. And for a lot of them, it might just be what they want to do with their family. It could be anything. It could be their church, But it doesn't have to be grandiose to be the most important thing to them. And in network marketing, it's almost like the wellness testimonials. You get the juice company, the vitamin pill company, and they put 10 people on stage, and the first person says, yeah, well, I got this little paper cut, and it healed a little bit faster. And by the 10th one, it's like, I was on the gurney, and I was dead, and they poured it down my throat, and boom, I came back to life, And it's like, people kind of get that way sometimes with their whys. It's almost like the one-upmanship. Well, mine's not big enough. I got to make it bigger. So I think just taking a step back and letting it come to them versus trying to force it would probably be my very best advice.
Right.
One thing, if I could add to that, one of the things that I keep telling people all the time, and when they hear this, it's like they're looking at me like they're in disbelief. But I tell people there's two things that will always get you where you want to be. You're either inspired by somebody else's story, so you just go, God, if they can do it, I can do it. And I keep telling people I came from the place of desperation. I was so desperate. All I needed to do is find a way to make sure to keep a car and a roof and food over my family's head. It was just 100% desperation. And so that was my first thought is, can I do this enough to make money? And then when they started talking about this purpose and this why and all this stuff, I tell people, and Scotty, I'd like you to feed into this because you've been in relationships with a lot of leaders, is I felt a guy that showed me how not to be kicked out of my house to keep my car. He had this incredible vision. And I just thought, you know what? I just want to be a small part of helping his vision come true. So for some of you that are lost and saying, well, I don't have a vision. Well, guess what? I learned to create a vision by helping someone else make their vision happen. And that's 100% okay. So I thought was unique is people ask me, well, how did I get here? It was actually trying to help my mentor make his vision come true. And I did such a great job that when his vision sort of like disappeared, it's like, geez, now what? It's like, wow, he doesn't have his company anymore. Everything is gone. It's like, I need to find someone else to follow. And that's pretty interesting that you sit back and that you had a small part of helping somebody else's vision and dreams come true. And I don't think that it's a bad thing that if you lived your whole life that way. So maybe you're just one of these things. I always remember this story, and it's very short of a pastor that dedicated his whole life since he was youth to the ministry. And then one day, and it's a story, so don't get caught up in the biblical stuff. And so when he dies and he meets his maker and he says, well done, good and faithful servant. And so he moves into, and there's some of these beliefs that the better you do in something, the closer that you get to live to God's mansion, right? And so he finds out that he's on the second tier. He's not the first tier, And he's like, man, I dedicated my whole life to you. who could possibly be in those homes? And he looked at him and he says, you know one of them. Let me show you. And so he takes her to the house and it opens up and he looks at the lady and he's going, Gladys, what are you doing here? And he goes, you know Gladys? And he goes, you know I do. She's the janitor of the church. She's the one that takes care of the church and makes sure that it's clean. And he goes, I don't get it. And he says, oh, she was praying for your mom and dad way before you came here. And she prayed for you for hours every day. The reason you did all what you did is because Gladys was praying for you. So sometimes you got a lot of people that are behind you, cheering you on, and hoping that you continue to do what they're scared to do. But when you got that kind of average people or maybe below average people in their minds, sometimes they're the most powerful people that are saying, go get them, Scotty, go get them, Scotty. So, you know, I'd like you to feed in on that.
Well, I will, Robert, and you know, you nailed that, because it's amazing when you pulled up in that car, and this is the thing that stands out first off about other people's vision, other people achieving, and knowing that you can be a part of helping them do that. Because in the organization, in the pyramid, you're at the top of the pyramid. My pyramid's under yours a little bit, so I had a smaller pyramid inside of your pyramid. And when you pulled up in that car, man, they told me about it. I was like, I can't wait to see this. Where is it? I remember we walked out there. It was Matty T, myself, or a couple other guys on the team. We walked out. It's like, wow, look at that. Couldn't wait to look at it, see all the different knobs. What does it do? Look at it, sit inside of it, then to get to ride back together, get to actually drive it. I mean, that felt so amazing, because I know in a small part of the way, you know, I was a part of working to help that become real for you as well. And so, you know, getting caught up in other people's visions, other people's accomplishments, and the fact that you're a part of that, that's huge. That's huge. And you know what it does, though? Automatically, without even thinking about it from this perspective, it does expand your own vision.
Yeah.
It can't not. It can't. You've got to grow in that environment. You have to.
So you're right on the money with that statement with one word. Instead of little, you were a huge reason I got that card. So I remember when Scotty and Matt and I think Jamin was there and a few other people, and they were like, wow. And I go, how do you like our car?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, there's no way you can accomplish some of the things that I've been blessed to accomplish without a team of people. It's not you at all. You gotta. I always tell people, the second that you forget who helped you get there is the second that they disappear and they go someplace else. So, yeah, what a blessing. Thank you.
You know, one other thing that I'll share, and this is a great story that I love, and there was a famous golfer, and I heard this a long time ago, and I can't remember the golfer's name, but he was invited to go over to Saudi Arabia and play with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And I guess the Crown Prince was a fan of this golfer. And this was decades ago, so it's a while back. So he goes over there, and the golfer plays with him, and at the end he says, hey, he said, you know, thank you so much for coming over here. He said, well, you know, you flew me over here on your private jet, and you put me up in this amazing palace, and I mean, I didn't pay for a thing. I just played golf with you. He said, no, you took your time, and that's the most precious thing. He said, please, what can I give you? Can I give you a gift? What can I give you? He said, well, I don't really want anything. He said, no. He said, I must give you something. He said, well, if you must, just, I don't know, think of something. He said, well, how about if I give you a golf club? He said, okay, a golf club would be great. Thank you. That would be more than enough. That would be fantastic. So the guy goes back home, and he said, you know, on the flight home on that private jet, I'm looking at this amazing private jet. I'm thinking of this palace that I just stayed in, and this food that I ate, and this whole lavish lifestyle of a king. He said, and I was kind of wondering when I got back, would I get like a 24-karat solid gold putter, you know, or would it be like maybe diamond-studded driver? He said, I was wondering. Then he said, a couple months passed, and I totally forgot. He said, then I get a delivery in the mail, and I open up an envelope, and it was a deed to a golf club in the United States. And he said, I finally realized the importance of expanding your vision and how some people's vision is different than others.
So instead of something you're holding, you're talking about a giant club?
He
bought
bought
a club?
5.
Wow, great story. I've never heard that one. That is awesome.
You know, but there's the thing, as to your point, Robert. If you don't feel you have a big vision, that's okay. Focus on, sometimes, like you said, it's desperation. I just got to pay my bills. I just got to live. Let me just get to the next week, the next month. That's okay. But at the same time, at least be conscious of the other people that you're working with and the visions they have, because it gets a little contagious. And if you approach it from a positive standpoint, where you look at it to enlighten yourself versus an envious standpoint, you'll find that you can't not have your vision be expanded, and it might just be the key that allows you to ultimately find that purpose you're looking for. So that environment of the people you're around, it's not just to help you make money, it's many other things, like maybe helping to find your purpose.
Excellent. Thank you. Molly, back to you.
I think all of us, you know, all the successful women in business, families, children, can learn from the conversation between you two amazing gentlemen that don't worry if you don't know your vision. Don't worry. Just start by helping others and just try to go out there and start creating greatness. Maybe do a little meditation, and that vision is, you know, if you have to copy someone else that's great, copy them until you figure it out. And if you never figure it out, just keep helping others and create greatness in other people's lives, and you should be good. Don't you think, gentlemen?
I'll tell you something that I heard just recently that you guys will love. Is Oprah was asked, and I'm setting this up because I want to ask Scotty B this question, is they asked, Oprah said that the older she gets, the more she can define what she did in a smaller sentence that made her successful. And so people were going, wow, so what is it? And the latest thing I just heard, she did this thing with, this movie about Selma. I think it was all about, Martin Luther King. And she's, of course, a big, big part of putting that whole movie together. And she said that she thought that her key to her success was listening to the people that had a heart-filled story and make sure that the world heard that story. Man, so I mean, it gives me chills. So if you look at what Oprah's done her whole life, she found people that had incredible stories, invited them on her show, and asked them questions and shared their story. Here's a person that made $1 billion. A billionaire is one of the strongest business women in the world, and all she does to this day is find people that have inspirational, heartfelt stories and make sure that the rest of the world gets to hear them. It choked me up a little bit, because sometimes we try to make this so complicated. And you sometimes get around the billionaires. So, that with that set up, Scotty, I wanted to share with you, I call it a pop, a point of passion, but could you share with us a couple of significant emotional events that happened in your hero's journey, from the time that you decided to become an entrepreneur, where it seemed like, there was parts where you just wanted to throw in the towel. This is not for me. This is not working. My God, I need to find something else to do. And you ran across significant emotional events that had happened to you that just, no, this is me. I have the ability to do this. And that I've been sharing a statement recently that someone told me they got out of my book. I got to find it. But they said that one statement that you said in your book changed my whole life. And I said, what's that? And she said, the whole phrase, fake it till you make it. She says, I like where you said, faith it till you make it. I was like, I said that? That's pretty awesome. So, what's something, Scotty, if you don't mind, maybe a couple of them where, it's just like, wow, I can do this. I know I can do this. I don't care how hard I got to work. The view around me doesn't look like I'm pulling this off, but I'm going to pull it off anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. And there's a couple that stand out right off the top. And one is very specific, and it's literally that day sitting on the deck of the Marriott Hotel at Waikiki Beach in Hawaii when we went through that entire visioning session. So it was an entire day process to create a vision statement. And we were out there about 6 to 7 hours, maybe even 8 hours from start to finish. We took a break for lunch, so I don't know how long we're gone for lunch. But we started that morning at 9, and we finished later on that afternoon at 6. So it was an entire process that you do to create a vision statement with the group, and that experience and that bonding experience was it was a life-altering experience for me, because then it put tangibility around the business as a purpose and a focus for other people. And even though I'd heard that, and even though I'd said those words for the very first time, for me, it was like the pop that you talk about. That was absolutely a pop. It was a marked moment in my life that I would never, ever, ever forget. So that one is the first main one that was a huge one for me. There's been a lot of other smaller ones, and I can't really recite every single one, but what happens, and I know you'll relate to this, Robert, and anybody who's building a team will, is anytime somebody calls you, anytime somebody calls you and you get that call and they leave that message and you know it's heartfelt and you absolutely know that you've touched their lives because you stayed a little bit later, the meeting after the meeting after the meeting after the meeting, 2 o'clock in the morning, you got up at 6 that morning for a breakfast meeting, you're dog tired, you're sitting there, but there was somebody new. I mean, it's like when we were new, they're just so excited, and any little nugget they can get, everybody's left and they say, you know, I'm really in a bad situation, I need something, I have to have something, you know, what would you say would be the best thing for me to do? And you basically tell them the same thing they heard in the training earlier, but it's because it's person to person, they connect to it in a different way. And then a month later, a couple weeks later, a few months later, you get that call, you get that message, you see them and you get that hug and you get that thanks. You know, that's it's like the commercials you see on TV where they list all the things and how much it costs, then they list the final experience and it says priceless.
Yeah.
It would be those moments, and the bigger you build a team and the more you help your people, the more of those you get. And it seems, it's interesting, Robert, but it seems how at some of those points where you're having the low times, and you could be making $1 million or more and still have some low times, but it's amazing how those kind of show up in your life just at the right time. Yep. They trigger, and it helps you to re-anchor and refocus back where you need to be. And fortunately, there have been a lot of those, and so I can't really give just one, nor I want to say anybody's name, but many of those have come along the way that have been just another pop. It's not how big it is, but it's a pop, all right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, I just relate to that. So, Molly, I don't want to keep Scotty B too long, so I'll let you close this up.
I think we have I had one more question that we can do real quick, and then we'll close it out here. I'll keep it right under an hour. So I didn't want to go without mentioning the Italiano. So, and I don't want you to say too much because we're going to interview him too, if he accepts our challenge. So anyway, the question is, you know, tell us a little bit about your partnership with Matty T, how it developed, how you've been able to sustain it, and where you guys are going, and then a little bit about building from the beach, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Okay. Well, Matteo Tucciarelli. Oh my gosh. Well, first off, all I gotta say is I love the guy like I love a brother. It's just amazing to work with somebody in a partnership, and it's very rare that partnerships do work. You have to have two people that kind of are equally yoked, so to speak. But I remember meeting Matty T. It was almost 10 years ago. I had two guys that I'd done some business with before that called me and asked if I wanted to help them start a new multi-level marketing company. They said, we're looking for a third partner. Here's what we're looking to do. I said, with a couple of adjustments, I'll do that. So we actually were flying down to Nashville, Tennessee, and I drove down. They were all flying in, so we're having an executive summit to launch the company. And so when I get there, the guy meets me, and then we're going to go. We got this big, kind of like a mini mansion, if you will, that we all stayed in so we could be in the same place for the weekend. And so when he met me, he said, well, there's one thing I got to tell you. We already have a master affiliate for the company. And he said, I'm sure you'll love him. I said, that's fine. If you guys like him, I'm sure I'll get along with him great. And so I didn't know they had a master affiliate. Well, Matt flew in from Orlando, and when they picked him up at the airport and bringing him up, they said, well, we got something we got to tell you. We actually have a third partner we haven't told you about. His name's Scotty B Mercker, and you're going to meet him in a few minutes. They said he is a one-third partner, and Matt said, well, you know, if you all like him, I'm sure I'll like him too. So we get into this house, and we meet for the very first time. And, you know, I really, right off the bat, I mean, I had a lot of respect for Matt instantaneously. As soon as I heard him speak, they told me his background, so I knew he'd proven himself over and over and over and over again. And then when I saw his commitment and his focus to helping people and build the business, you know, I knew this was going to be a good relationship. So I focused mostly on Central and South America. He focused mostly on the United States. So only on leadership calls and executive summits did we interface, but I saw what was going on, and I felt what was going on through an interaction with people. And so we just developed a very, very, very close relationship. And then unfortunately, when that company wasn't going to make it, we were looking for a home. And it was at that point that a real good friend of ours from Silicon Valley took us to a coffee company, Gano Excel, and we met with the owners of the company and the top executives, and that's where we got a chance to meet Robert for the very first time inside that company. And when we were sitting there looking at how we're going to do this, we said, well, we have this database. We know a ton of people that are separate, but we have a big team of people that need a home. How do you split this team? So I just said to him, I said, why don't we do a partnership? He said, we just build together, we split everything 50-50 after expenses, and I said, I think we can do it. And he said, well, what makes them work? What's the problem? We talked a little bit, and the biggest thing is I said, you know, I've noticed that we both have a similar vision for the industry, a love, a passion for it, for people. We have the same work ethic, the same commitment, so I don't think we're going to have any problem at all. We obviously communicate very, very well. So we decided to form a partnership, and that was almost 5 years ago, and we've had that partnership ever since. So that's how I first got to meet him. That's how we got to be together. And I can tell you, if you get him on here, you don't want to miss this one, man, because whether you see him or just hear his voice, everybody's going to love him. He's awesome.
For sure. For sure. Well, yep. So I guess, are you finished with that, Scotty B? I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
You had a second piece to that. What was that second piece?
The second piece was, you know, how you've been able to sustain your relationship with him, because, you know, I know it's similar. It's a business relationship, but it's similar to a marriage, because I'm sure you've gone through ups and downs with him, you know, and it's like you hardly hear Scotty B without hearing Maddie T, you know. So I was just, the second part was how you have sustained that relationship, and then, you know, what are your plans going forward in the future?
Yeah, it's really simple. It comes down to one word: communication. Open and honest communication. You know, we've had things where we didn't see eye to eye on the point. We've never once raised our voice. We've never once had an argument. There are a couple times where there was a little frustration, but it was just a frustration because we weren't really connecting. It wasn't a frustration with the person. But that's because of the level of communication on the front end. I mean, there's some days I talk to Maddie T sometimes 50 to 60 to 70 times in a day through Voxer back and forth. So see, we're constantly communicating all the time about anything and everything that we need to. So that's made a huge, huge difference, is that openness to honest and clear communication. That's been the first thing. The other thing is that it still comes back to it is, you know, having a similar vision and a similar value set for where we want to go. And where we want to go is very simple. When I first saw this industry, I've always had a dream to see the entire world. And I said, you know, I don't know any other way I'm going to be able to get a chance to do that. It's going to be multi-level marketing. And I've been fortunate. I've been to, I think, 41 or 42 countries now, but there's a lot more out there. And, you know, I want to get a chance for Christy and I to go, I mean, vacation in a lot of new places and see a lot of places we've gone to before. And there's just so much of the world that is still open out there. So our goal, literally, and it has been from the beginning, is to have a downline that is an active downline that we can actively work with and travel and see in over 100 countries. We've had some virtually in 141 countries, but we want to have like physical presence in these countries, and that's our goal in the next 5 years.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scotty B. We have a lot of people that will be watching this, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it and learn so much. So can you tell us, for people out there that would like to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the best way is just to either call my cell phone, which is 502-419-9005. I just think it's best to pick up the phone and call. Worst case is I can't answer and you leave me a voicemail, or you can email me at scottib@scottybmercker.com. Those are probably the two best. You can go to Facebook and leave a message, but just call direct or email, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Text, I mean, who knows by the time somebody sees this 50 years from now what kind of technology we'll have, but Robert will be using it.
Thank you so much. Is there any last words you have for us today, Scotty B?
I do have one last little word, and it revolves around successful women in business, because it was 20 years ago when we had the very first Successful Women in Business Symposium at one of our, we had a leadership conference that we were doing in Cancun, and we had about 455 of our leaders that had hit a certain level. And so we brought together a panel of our top income earning women, and we put them together on stage. And and it was just literally a symposium where they talked about different points of the business, tips, strategies, I mean, feelings, a lot of different things. And I could tell you, I heard a lot of women that said things to me, but there were so many men that said, wow, that was so valuable to be able to hear a woman's perspective, because so many times the men are so engaged with the men, and a lot of times the women are around the men, but when the women tend to engage with themselves, it's very rare the men come around a group of women normally. There's some men that do, but most don't. So men, I think, miss out on one of the most important aspects, is being able to get the perspective about many different areas of our business and our industry straight from women. But 70% of direct sales is made up of women, so there's a disconnect. So as soon as I had all these guys telling me, wow, that was our favorite part of the conference, that was amazing, so we started doing that on a regular basis. So the biggest thing I would say is women, just keep doing this, because there's a huge value for you and for the men. And for men, you know, I don't care how big a boy you are, just hang up and get on here and listen to what these women are saying, because if you want to be serious about being successful, you will learn more than you can ever even imagine by taking the time to sit back and not do what we've been doing, is talking, and just use these two things and listen. So that's all I'm going to say for you big old boys. Listen to the ladies.
Wow, that's amazing, Scotty B. And thank you so much, because this actually wouldn't even be anything if it wasn't for you getting it started back, you know, I think it was over a year ago. So we've just kind of taken the bull by the horns, and we appreciate you. And, you know, we know that we'll have you with us by our side, you know, for eternity. So again, thank you so much. And everyone, this has been an interview with Scotty B. Mercker, Successful Women in Business. If you're not sure who we are and you want to find out, you can go find us at swbgroup.info, and you can find out more information about us there. Robert Hollis, any last words?
No. Thank you so much, Molly, for putting together this interview, and also for the people that are watching it either live and the ladies that actually participated live. And I really appreciate you. And Scotty B, you know my heart is true to you forever, man. You're an awesome individual, and I want to continue learning from you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, all the ladies that came on today, and everyone that's watching. We couldn't be more grateful. So at that, we'll end it. Thanks, Scotty B.
You.
Bye, Robert. Bye, everyone.
God bless.
Everybody. Thank you.
I'll send you the link.